In 1998, the Tectonic Theater Project of New York heard news of a tragic incident in Laramie, Wyoming, surrounding the fatal beating of a young gay man. 10 members traveled to Laramie in November of that same year to interview the community. They compiled the interviews starting from 4 weeks after the beating, ranging from personal accounts of the night to the aftershock in the community. These interviews were worked into a play following the timeline and response to the death of Matthew Shepard.
On the night of November 6, 1998, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson met Matthew Shepard in a local bar. At some point that night, McKinney and Henderson left the bar with Shepard in their truck with the intent to rob him. They took him to the outskirts of town, tied him to a fence, brutally beat him, and left him to fight for his life. 18 hours later, he was found by a cyclist passing by and subsequently rushed to a hospital where he remained in a coma.
Matthew Shepard, medical update from 4:30 a.m., Monday, October 12th.
At 12:53 a.m., Matthew Shepard died. His family was at his bedside. The family did release the following statement.
The world premature and left the world premature. Go home, give your kids a hug, and don't let a day go by without telling them that you love them.
Despite not being present in Laramie at the time of death, the Tectonic Theater Project uses personal accounts to craft together the story of that night and what followed. Tectonic uses varying perspectives from people and many different values and relationships to Matthew Shepard to clarify events that the media twisted. The sequel returns to the town on the 10th anniversary of Shepard's death to take another look at the deeper impact it had on the community. Even with the depressing events that took place in Laramie, the story carries a message of hope.
Community.
Laramie Project focuses on the story of Matthew Shepard. The stories from the townspeople are what really shaped the book. The theme of community is present in the novel as the play is made up of entirely quotes by the community. The narrative develops as a byproduct of the numerous little stories told and perspectives explored as opposed to the narrators explicitly telling the story. The book has 65 characters, and each offer an opinion on the death of Matthew Shepard. Some friends of his, some teachers of him, some strangers, all with stories to tell and perspectives to bring. Without the community of Laramie, the Laramie Project would not exist.
Building off of the idea of community, another major theme in the Laramie Project is the spectrum of bias. Throughout the play, the interviews portray varying biases and prejudices about Matthew and his values. The play introduces new perspectives to the reader that allow them to better understand how the incident happened and why the responses were so polarized. The spectrum of bias is a recurring challenge for Laramie as the town attempts to understand how Shepard's death occurred. Each member of the community shares their own beliefs regarding the incident and contributes to the overall outcome of his death and how it changed the community.
Media portrayal. Media portrayal of Matthew Shepard's death was a misleading representation of the incident. News channels, documentaries, and articles written by people with no connection to the town of Laramie made biased claims and accusations about Matthew and his murders that drastically obscured the perspective of Laramie from outsiders. Although the Tectonic Theater Company was able to combat biased lies of the media through personal accounts, they played a major role in the responses and what changed within the community following the tragic incident. In The Hate You Give, Star is hesitant to reveal her perspective on Khalil's death, which allows the false media portrayal of discrimination to spiral out of control. Media portrayal is influential to both Matthew Shepard and Star's stories.
There are many parallel aspects of bias and prejudice between The Hate You Give and the Laramie Project. Although they have their differences, we think that they should be taught concurrently, so students have an opportunity to deeper explore the idea of when and how we should stand up for our beliefs. Students will also have an opportunity to see the differences between novels and plays, and what are the benefits of each form. By teaching them simultaneously, the students will be able to explore the role that perspective plays in the narrative of a novel or play. The similarities between the books will allow for conversations to emerge, comparing and contrasting.
One of our lesson plans is a whole class seminar about the relating themes and ideas between The Hate You Give and the Laramie Project. Students will collaborate to clearly see the connection between the two books through the bias shown in both of them. We We believe this will be an engaging and intriguing activity for everyone and will help students develop their own ideas about bias and perspective. By conducting a discussion, students will have the opportunity to share and expand on their ideas while better understanding the underlying messages of the text.